Hello, as you all know, I'm Hildner, and for the better part of 2 months, I've been researching the question, how has mineral extraction on the Colorado Plateau affected the Native American tribes who live there? Chances are you've been to, or at least driven by, the dog park. Now, I've always wondered why nothing has been built there. With such a high premium on real estate in Durango, it just seems strange that nothing's been built there. It's flat, it's waterfront, and it's a close, short walk to downtown. Well, it has to do with the name of the mountain that it lies under. Smelter Mountain is named that because the current location of the dog park was at one point the home to an ore smelter. The smelter was opened in the 1880s to deal and work with the gold and silver ore coming down from the Silverton area. But in the 1940s, was moved over to work with processing uranium ore from the Uravan belt for the Manhattan Project. The radiation and contamination left behind is why nothing is built there. Similar issues are found all over the southwest United States. Mineral extraction has affected everyone living on and around the Colorado Plateau. It has brought economic health to communities over the years and has made some people very rich, but it never really lasts. The mines and pumps dry up, or the economy changes and it's no longer possible to make a profit. What's left is what we're dealing with now. Hold on, my cards are up. Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay. Yep. Various types of problems, mainly cancers and respiratory diseases, have appeared in communities where that was never a problem 100 years ago. People have had their lives torn apart because of the problems a simple job created for them. The environment can easily be contaminated from mineral extraction. Tailings ponds can rupture, pipes can burst, and waste can be left out to break down without any cleanup. In most cases, the waste from fracking and uranium mining finds its way back into local towns and communities, and it takes decades for anything to be done regarding cleanup. The smelter here in Durango was cleaned up in the 1980s, decades after it originally closed. It's taken longer for the issues on Native American reservations to be dealt with. We are here in this general area in the lower section of the San Juan Mountains. The San Juan Mountains lie on the eastern edge of the Colorado Plateau, which is a large system of plateaus made up of western and southwestern Colorado, a huge chunk of eastern Utah, almost half of Utah, northwestern New Mexico, and almost the majority of northern Arizona. Most of the plateau watershed drains into the Colorado River, but the rest of it drains into the Rio Grande River, making only 2 escapes for water on the plateau. The majority of the plateau is high desert, making it dry and arid. Forests and mountains are also found on and around it, but it being mostly desert means that there's a lack of certain resources, mainly water. Lack of water means that it needs to be pumped in from other places. Now don't take what I'm saying to mean that there is no water at all. I mean that there's a finite amount in the rivers and underground aquifers, that the amount of water the plateau has is not even remotely enough to support the type of mining industry that the amount of minerals under the plateau could support. There's just not enough water for that. There is enough water for people to live, though. And people have been here a long time. The plateau has fostered human history dating back thousands of years. The ancestral Puebloans inhabit the area up until the 13th century and then disappeared. These people were ancestors to the various Native American tribes that inhabit the Colorado Plateau now. Navajo, Hopi, Zuni, Laguna, and various other Puebloan tribes have common roots that connect back to those early people. These tribes have strong spiritual and physical ties to the plateau and the environment around them. Most Native American tribes in the Southwest have been dealt a bad hand when it comes to the mineral extraction industry. Why would someone allow this type of corporation to start mining on their land, let alone continue? As does anything, it brings jobs, which brings money. The Southern Ute tribe of southwestern Colorado has been managing the economic prosperity of their tribe very well. The tribe has thrived for over 100 years, starting with the creation of their reservation. In 1873, a Ute leader known as Chief Urey negotiated a deal known as the Bruneau Agreement with the U.S. government that allowed early miners into Ute lands in what is now the San Juan Mountains. Along with letting the U.S. have the land, the government was to pay $25,000 every year for the rest of time and allow the tribe to retain hunting rights in the mountains. Urey was also given an extra $1,000 salary every year for the rest of his life. Since then, the Southern Ute have grown to become one of the richest Native American tribes in the country, with an economic company, their Southern Ute Growth Fund, that the tribe runs various businesses through. This growth fund manages operations and assets in energy, construction, real estate, and private equity, and is spread across 14 states and the Gulf of Mexico. One of the biggest pieces of their conglomerate is the Red Willow Production Company, which is an oil and natural gas company. Through this subsidiary company, they have over 1,600 wells throughout 4 states. And as Bloomberg News pointed out, the tribe counts more oil and gas wells than it does members. Recently, the Southern Ute have been trying to expand their drilling practices. Since 2012, the Southern Ute tribe has spent $1.6 million lobbying Washington to ease energy permits, ensure tribal sovereignty, and lighten U.S. Interior Department rules on fracking and methane emissions, according to the Senate's Lobbying Disclosure Act database. The tribe has the money to help itself, something most tribes do not. At the same time, the Standing Rock Sioux are battling the government over building the Dakota Access Pipeline. The Southern Ute are trying to get the government to let them take full control of their land and start more drilling. The Southern Utes believe that they know what's best for their land and are tired of jumping through hoops to get something done that they can just do themselves. Mineral extraction has many economic benefits for the various communities it affects. It creates towns and supports families, and in some cases helps entire Native American reservations become self-sustaining. Nevertheless, the cons outweigh the pros by a long shot. The health risks that mineral extraction poses to humans and animals alike is not something to take lightly. Various diseases, mainly respiratory and kidney, have become more prevalent in communities near mines, especially communities that have citizens that work or have worked in the mines at some point. Today, more than 4.1 million Native Americans live in the western United States, 478,000 on reservation lands. Combining U.S. Census information with a gridded population data set, it is estimated that more than 600,000 Native Americans live within 10 kilometers of an abandoned mine. With the amount of abandoned mines, and still active mines, across Native American reservations, it's a wonder that more people aren't sick or haven't developed symptoms. Uranium mining is one of the major industries to blame when it comes to sickness on the reservation in the Southwest. Uranium affects the body mostly through inhalation, breathing in air that contains uranium dusts, or eating something that could contain uranium particles. The kidneys are most affected by uranium, which causes kidney failure and can lead to death. Cancers can form from uranium exposure, but usually years later. It doesn't happen immediately. It was discovered that of the thousands of uranium miners who worked in the mines between the years of 1950 and 1960, 500 to 600 died of lung cancer, and almost all were associated with radon exposure. Even after 1990, a similar number of deaths was to be expected. A study of Navajo miners done in 2000 reported there were 94 documented deaths caused by lung cancer. 63 of those deaths were people who were former uranium miners. The lack of protective measures taken to protect the mine workers resulted in high levels of exposure to radioactivity. Uranium miners are 5 times more likely to contract lung cancer than the general population. Exposure to the dust, gases, exhaust, and fumes that can be found around the mines can result in non-malignant and malignant respiratory disease in underground miners. In addition to lung cancer and kidney problems, other possible diseases that could show up are skin cancer, bone cancer, leukemia, and the list goes on. And more importantly, the environment suffers. On July 16, 1979, United Nuclear Corporation's Church Rock uranium mill tailings disposal pond breached its dams. It was an environmental disaster. Over 1,000 tons of solid radioactive mill waste and 93 million gallons of acidic radioactive tailings solution flowed into the Puerco River, and contaminants traveled 130 kilometers downstream onto the Navajo Nation. So the Church Rock is located right here, just east of Gallup. I'm not stable. And this is the Puerco River coming in here. So it flowed down into Little Colorado, which eventually made its way into the Grand Canyon. Local residents used the Puerco River for irrigation and livestock, and were not immediately aware of the toxic danger. And in terms of the amount of radiation released, the accident was larger in magnitude than the 3 Mile Island accident of the same year. Testing has been done throughout Native American lands for years. Various government and tribal organizations have been working on testing the grounds around abandoned uranium mines for a considerable amount of time, at least 8 years now. The conclusion was that all of the mines had contaminated the area around them, and in most cases, the communities and homes that were situated near the mines. Tests done on wells near the mines also proved that there was indeed contamination in the water, leading to the need to drill new wells for people's homes. Land near the mines that hadn't been used in decades was still extremely contaminated. Plus, a considerable amount of the houses near the mines were found to be made of the tailings and waste left from those mines. People are literally living in radiation. Uranium mining isn't as prevalent nowadays in the Southwest as it was 30 years ago. Presently, the big mineral extraction industry that we're familiar with is oil and gas drilling. The Colorado Plateau has thousands of oil and gas wells spread across it. Fracking, which is the process of pushing liquids into crevices at high velocities to gain access to oil and gas, has become increasingly popular and common. The process has become an easier way to access the fossil fuel deposits lying underground, and like uranium, a large quantity of the fossil fuels are found under Native American lands. Besides the remains of uranium, fracking poses the highest risk to the environment. Fracking affects the air, water, soil, and can cause problems in the Earth's crust. Fracking releases methane gas into the atmosphere, which is one of the major gases causing heat to be trapped in the atmosphere. Along with methane, fracking releases many other air contaminants through disposal of waste, material and equipment transport, and construction and operation of the well sites. Examples of other pollutants released by fracking and drilling are benzene, toluene, dust, smog, nitrogen oxides, and more. These pollutants also affect humans' health negatively, as you would suspect. Water is essential to the fracking process, as it is the main liquid sent to the ground to break apart the crevices that the oil and gas are stored in. The water is mixed with sand and other chemicals to split the rock. The initial injection isn't the harmful part, though. It's when the wastewater that they take after the initial injection has been made, it's when that wastewater is re-injected back into the site to dispose of that the problems occur. During this process, it is easy for the chemical water to break into nearby underground water pockets and aquifers. The chemical and sand-filled water then mixes with the clean underground water and contaminates it. The water is unusable at this point. This can also lead to the soil and ground around the water and oil pockets to become contaminated as well. Plants won't grow and the ground becomes unhealthy. In addition to the contamination of the ground and water, fracking has also been known to trigger small earthquakes. The high-pressure streams of water breaking apart rock can start these seismic events, and while earthquakes may be small, the fact that they happen near these pockets of clean and now contaminated water is a problem. Is a problem, as it could potentially contaminate the ground even further while taking away drinking water for wells. Plus, no one likes earthquakes. The effects that mineral extraction has had on Native American tribes throughout the Colorado Plateau have been negative. People have become increasingly sick, as well as the land becoming impossible to live on due to radiation and contamination caused by the ways that different minerals are removed and how the wastes are disposed of. The mining industry has more than enough rules and restrictions presently that it's hard to believe that at one point there wasn't any rule enforcement in the mines, thus leading to people developing problems and subsequently dying. Although one Native American tribe has proven itself to understand how to work mineral extraction into its culture and provide for itself, the health and environmental risks that come from mineral extraction still outweigh whatever benefits it could bring. The amount of money that would eventually be needed to take care of the slowly dying population, as well as the contaminated environment, would be enormous and would dwarf the amount of money that any drilling or mining would or could potentially bring in. Not to mention that there would be hundreds of people dying of cancer and other diseases to deal with. Now, the environment needs time to replenish itself. If mining continues the way it does currently and continues to resources wastefully, the problems produced could result in extreme environmental issues across the Southwest, as well as economic issues. Mining and fracking use millions of gallons of water to extract the minerals. Because water is scarce on the plateau, it is piped into the mines and drill sites. Once there, it is used to get one job done, then it's contaminated and forgotten about, usually put into an evaporating pond. This isn't smart because the water is being used for one thing and then being wasted. This sort of wastefulness is what needs to change to make the future more livable and more viable, especially for the people living in the Southwest, like us. To get to a place where mineral extraction is safe for workers as well as civilians living near mines, and is safe for the environment, things need to change. Stricter regulations need to be put in place in the mining corporations for worker safety and proper management of wastes. Resources need to be used more effectively instead of wasted. Now that the majority of the problems brought forward by mineral extraction are known publicly, more oversight rules will be used if mining companies want to continue being companies. The civilian population in this day and age won't let any issues go unnoticed, which means that more scrutiny will be put on the companies to perform safer practices. No more people will get sick, and the environment will eventually heal itself. Research will continue to be done on the effects of mineral extraction as the industry changes to fit with the times. It's hard to imagine that mining and drilling industries will die off anytime soon. We need the resources and we need the jobs. We just need to find a way to do it in a safe way, not only for the sake of our health, but for the sake of the world around us. Thank you.